The valley is still. Granger Valley, Tennessee, October. The hills have gone gold at the edges, the way they do when the season is ending and not pretending otherwise. A fence line, a creek running dark between its banks, a man standing on one side, a woman on the other, 6 feet of cold air between them. And something that has been building since June, since a summer barbecue, since a gravel path, since a sentence said out loud at this exact spot that changed the direction of everything. She is not crying, she is not angry, she is asking him one question, and the way he answers or doesn't answer is going to decide the rest of his life. He looks at the wire between them, the creek keeps moving, she waits. He had gotten very good at not wanting things, not because he was cold, not because something had broken in him, but because he had learned the hard way that wanting something directly meant losing it directly, and he had lost enough to know what that cost. So at 28, Cody Whitmore ran his cattle ranch alone, paid his bills on time, kept his word, went to bed tired enough not to think too much. He told himself that was a good life. It was a good life until the fence needed fixing. The spring floods had taken out 2 sections along the east fence line. Same sections as last year, same sections as the year before that. The creek ran high every April, the post leaned, the wire sagged into the grass, and Cody fixed them. That was the arrangement. Water came, wood gave. A man showed up with a post digger and a set of work gloves and did what needed doing. He loaded the truck at 6 in the morning. June air, cool and pale. The hills above Granger Valley thick and green after a wet spring. He drove the half-mile out to the east pasture with the windows down and the radio off, parked, got out, looked at tunt. 2 posts down, wire in the grass, same as always. He pulled on his gloves and started. This was Cody Whitmore at 28, not unhappy, not complicated. He ran 86 head of cattle on 212 acres in Granger Valley, Tennessee, a piece of land his father had started and his mother had kept going after his father left, and that Cody had taken over entirely when she died. He had a bank loan 4 years in, a farmhouse with a new back roof and a kitchen faucet he kept meaning to fix properly. A crew of 2 during busy season, a dog named Hatch who was 15% border collie and 85% stubbornness, and no one to come home to. He had stopped noticing that last part, or he had stopped letting himself notice it, which is a different thing but can feel the same after long enough. His mother had died 6 years ago. March, his 22nd year, right at the end of calving season. Carol Whitmore. She had been 49 years old and healthy, and then she had not been either of those things. Fast and wrong and over before he understood what was happening. He had kept the ranch going because she would have wanted him to. He had kept going because there was no other option he was willing to look at. The Aldermans had been good to him after. Earl and Donna, who ran the property directly east across the creek, separated from Cody's land by the fence line he was currently digging into. Earl had come over the week after the funeral with a casserole and a handshake, and the kind of decency that knows when to talk and when not to. He had shown up twice a week that first spring to help with calving. Never mentioned it afterward. Never expected anything back. Cody had known their daughter June since she was 18. He had spoken to her dozens of times. At the Alderman supper table, at the feed store in town, at every community gathering Granger Valley put on. He thought of her the way you think of people who are simply there, reliably there, pleasant to talk to, part of the landscape. He was not a stupid man. He would want that noted. He just was not looking yet. He was on his 3rd post when he heard her coming down the creek path, light and purposeful. The soft crunch of gravel and grass that meant someone who walked this path regularly and was not thinking about it. June Alderman came around the bend in the cottonwoods with a canvas bag over one shoulder and a smaller basket in her other hand. Green t-shirt, jeans, her dark blonde hair pulled back in the loose practical way she wore it when she was working. She did not see him at first. She set the basket at the edge of the creek and crouched to check something along the bank, the soft undermining that happened here every spring, where the water ate into the soil. Her expression was focused, quiet, the face of someone actually thinking about a problem, not performing the act of thinking about it. Cody kept working on the post. He was not watching her, except that he was, a little. The way your eyes go to movement when everything else around you is still. She looked up. Morning, Cody. Morning, he nodded, at the posts. Spring floods, they always get that section. She stood, brushing her hands on her jeans. Dad's been saying he needs to raise ours too. He won't do it until something falls over. Sounds like Earl. It is exactly like Earl. She picked up her basket, checked the bank one more time. Walt Briggs threw out his back again, pulling fence posts which everyone told him not to. How bad? Bad enough that he let me bring soup yesterday, which for Walt is basically a medical emergency. Cody smiled without thinking about it. They talked a few minutes more. The water table, the Henderson corn coming in short, whether the county road on the south side was going to get repaved before the next election or after. Easy, natural. The conversation of two people who have known each other long enough to skip the warm-up. Then she picked up her bag and headed back up the path. "Tell me if you need wire clips," she said over her shoulder. "Dad's got extra in the barn. I'm all right. Thanks, June." She was gone around the cottonwoods before he had the next post seated. Cody drove it into the ground and did not think about June Alderman. He thought about the angle and the depth and whether the wire needed replacing or just retensioning. He was fine. He was absolutely fine. He finished the fence by noon, loaded the truck, and drove back to the barn. Fed the dog, checked the water troughs. Ate lunch, standing at the kitchen counter looking out the window at the east pasture. He was fine. The Granger Valley Community Church held its summer barbecue on the last Saturday of June. Same field behind the fellowship hall. Same three families arguing politely about whose pulled pork was better. Old Ray Hutchins on guitar, somebody's nephew on a drum kit that was too loud for the space, and enough food for twice the county. Cody went because he always went. Because small places run on showing up, on being the kind of neighbor who comes to the barbecue and helps carry folding tables and does not spend the evening looking at his phone. He arrived at 6. Found the Alderman family already there. Earl in his good button-down shirt, the blue one he wore to every event that required a good shirt. Donna in yellow, laughing at something Ruth Henderson had said, and June in a pale blue sundress, silk cotton, nothing trying too hard. He looked at her for approximately 2 seconds. Then he looked at the food tables. He was fine. He filled a plate. Talked to Dale Hutchins about the Haymarket. Talked to Reverend Mills about the parking situation in the South Lot. Talked to Patty Kern, who ran the county extension office and had known Cody since he was 11 years old, and had what could charitably be described as no filter whatsoever. They danced once when the band played something slow. Patty was a good dancer, easy to follow, which meant Cody's hands were occupied but his attention was not, which meant his eyes drifted to the other side of the field, where June was laughing at something Dale Hutchins's youngest was saying. A real laugh, head tipping back, unguarded. The kind of laugh that is not for anyone's benefit but the person having it. "Cody, you have been looking at June Alderman all evening." "I haven't been. I've known you since you were 11. Patty's voice was pleasant and completely firm. "You have been looking at her all evening." He changed the subject. Patty let him. She had the patience of someone who knows they are right and is in no hurry. He ate a second plate because it was good barbecue. Said goodnight to Earl and Donna. June was across the field talking to someone. He did not specifically look to see who. He drove home at 9:30 with the windows down and the valley going dark around him and the Tennessee sky doing what it does in June, which is to say everything it has. He stopped the truck, no mechanical reason, no deer in the road. He just stopped. Middle of the county road, half a mile from his driveway, engine idling, and sat there. He thought I'd got out June Alderman in a pale blue sundress laughing with her head tipped back. He thought about her crouching at the creek bank that morning in June, actually looking at the problem. He thought about the way she'd said for Walt, "That's basically a medical emergency. Dry and unhurried, no performance." He thought about the fact that he knew her step on the gravel path before he saw her. He had known that for a while. In a general, unexamined way, and he had never let himself look at it directly. He looked at it now. He wanted to see June Alderman every day. Not as a neighbor, not as Earl's daughter, as something that had no name yet but had weight. Specific, undeniable weight in the center of his chest. He stopped the thought, because the last time he'd wanted something with that specific weight, he'd lost it. Fast and wrong, and over before he understood what was happening. His mother. He had survived that by not wanting things directly, by keeping his hands busy and his expectations flat and his life manageable. It had worked. It was still working. Except that he was sitting on a county road at 9:30 at night, unable to drive the last half-mile home, which suggested something was no longer entirely working. He sat in the truck for a while. The crickets were loud. The stars were doing what they do. Somewhere over the ridge a truck was moving on the main road, its lights sweeping briefly visible and then gone. He thought about his mother's ring, the one in the coffee can on the second shelf of the bedroom closet, the simple silver band with the small pale stone. The one he had never known what to do with, had never been able to move or give away or think about without something closing in his chest. He did not touch the coffee can. He drove home, fed the dog, checked the water troughs, went to bed, lay in the dark a long time. Before he slept, he thought, I know her step on the gravel, and that was the thing he could not quite put back where it had been. Walt Briggs's back got worse in July. Cody found out from Earl on a Wednesday morning, standing on opposite sides of the fence line with the creek between them. Earl said it casual, working up to something else. That June had been driving out to Walt's 3 times a week now, bringing meals, checking the fire, making sure the old man was not doing the things the doctor had told him not to do, which Walt was constitutionally opposed to being told. She's been going alone, Cody said. She doesn't mind. Cody thought about the road out to Walt's place. Gravel for half a mile, then the long dirt track, then the house up on a rise that caught the full afternoon heat. Walt still insisted visitors park at the gate. Old preferences that no one had found a way to argue him out of. I'll walk out with her next time, Cody said. Earl looked at him, that long, unhurried look Earl had. The one that said he was filing things away. That'd be kind, Earl said. Cody mentioned it to June the next morning when she came past with her bag. Offered it simply, no reason given. She stopped and looked at him with the slight surprise of someone who had expected to be alone and was recalculating. You don't have to, I know, he said. I want to, she considered that. Decided not to make it complicated. I'm going Thursday, I'll be ready. Thursday was hot and clear, and the kind of still that makes Tennessee in July feel like a held breath. They walked the 1.5 miles to Walt's along the road because June did not take scenic routes when a direct one was available. She was not a woman who wandered without purpose. She moved with intention. And she talked, not nervously, not to fill silence, but because she was genuinely interested in things and had things to say about them. The Henderson corn coming in short, and what that would mean for 3 families trying to share equipment costs in October. Whether Granger Valley feed was going to stay open after the Petersons retired. What the county extension office was missing in terms of actually useful workshops for small operations. Nobody's going to step up for the feed store, she said. Dale Hutchins wants people to think he might want it. That's different from wanting it. You sound sure about that. I pay attention, you do, Cody said. She glanced at him. Just for a second. Something in her expression he did not quite read. Then she looked back at the road. They walked on. Walt was sitting in his kitchen when they arrived, chair positioned to face the door so he could see visitors coming and prepare. He was a large, worn man with a gray beard and the specific patience of someone who has spent 70 years arguing with weather and usually losing and does not plan to stop trying. About time, he said. We walked, June said, setting the bag on the counter. I can see that. He looked at Cody. Haven't seen you up here in a while. Been busy. Everybody's busy. Walt made a sound that was not quite a complaint. Sit down. June, that smells like something with actual flavor. Chicken and rice. Is there bread? There's bread. All right. Then June moved around his kitchen with the ease of someone who had been doing it for months. Warming the soup, slicing the bread, checking the wood stove, making sure the water jugs were full. She did it without commentary, without making a production of what she was giving him. The way some people do things, naturally, without awareness that it is remarkable. Cody sat across from Walt and let the old man talk. Walt had opinions about everything. The road commissioner, the price of diesel, his neighbor to the south who let the brush line go every 3rd year, the general direction of American fence building. He talked for 20 minutes without interruption while June worked. Cody watched her. He was watching her. He had stopped pretending otherwise, at least to himself. The way she checked Walt's fire without being asked. The way she had a second bread roll wrapped and set on the counter before Walt had finished the first. The way she noticed, walking in, that the water jug was low and filled it before Walt knew it needed filling. This was Tuesday and Thursday for her, without being asked, without making anyone feel like they owed her. Walt stopped talking mid-sentence, looked at Cody. You're a fool, he said, if you don't see what's right in front of you. June's back was to them. She went still for half a second, then kept moving. The back of her neck went pink. Cody looked at Walt. "I know," he said quietly, meaning it, meaning more than the two words held. Walt held his gaze for a moment, nodded once, picked up his spoon. "Well," he said, "work faster. I'm old, I don't have time to watch you be slow about it." They walked back in the afternoon heat. The conversation was easier now, if anything. Like something had been named without being named, and the air had more room in it. At the fork where the path to Cody's property split from the road to the Aldermans, June stopped and turned. "Thank you," she said, "for coming. It's nicer with someone." She meant it simply. Not as an opening, just the honest statement of a person who says exactly what she means. "I'll come Thursday," he said. She smiled, small and real, then walked toward home. Cody stood at the fork. The afternoon heat sat heavy. A hawk was making wide circles above the ridge, and he was standing on a back road in Granger Valley, feeling something pulling in a direction he had spent 6 years learning not to follow. He walked home. He did not know exactly what to do with it, but he felt it, clearly, for the first time without flinching. Derek Paulson came back to the valley in mid-July. Cody heard about it the way you hear about everything in a small place. From 3 different people in 2 days, each one delivering it like it might be news and watching his face for something. First Patty Kern at the feed store, Derek Paulson's back, staying at his mother's, saying he might move back permanent. Second Earl at the fence line, neutral as gravel, mentioning he'd seen Derek's truck on Route 9. Third Ray Hutchins's wife at the post office, who said he seems different in the tone people use when they mean he seems better and want you to do the math. Cody did the math. He knew about Derek Paulson the way you know about everyone's history in a valley where history is a shared resource. Derek had been June's boyfriend through the end of high school and for a stretch after. Not a bad person. They had split when he took a job in Knoxville 3 years ago, and it had been quiet and undramatic in the way endings are when neither person was entirely wrong. That had been 3 years ago. Cody told himself it had nothing to do with him. Which was true. Which was also not the point. He started checking the east fence line more often, not because of Derek. For no reason he was prepared to examine. He just found himself down there checking wire that was already tensioned and posts that were already seated. He saw June 4 times in 2 weeks, the creek bank, the road to Walt's, the parking lot of the feed store on a Thursday, the edge of Earl's backfield on a Sunday evening when she was walking the property line checking for the soft spots that developed in wet years. They talked each time, easy. The creek, the cattle, the Henderson corn, the Petersons finally setting a date for retirement. The 4th time, June said called it about Dale Hutchins and the feed store, and Cody said you did, and June said I'm going to be insufferable, and Cody said you already are, and she turned on him with a sharp look, and he kept his face neutral, and she laughed. Real and sudden and unguarded, and Cody thought there it is, there was the thing. He had been looking at it sideways for weeks. Now he was looking at it straight and it was just there, simple and specific and not going anywhere. He went home, sat on the porch with the dog and a glass of water and the lights of the Alderman place visible across the field. He thought about Derek Paulson's truck on Route 9. He thought about his mother's ring in the coffee can. He thought about what Patty had said at the barbecue. He did not take the ring out, not yet, but he thought about it for a long time. It was a Tuesday in the 2nd week of August. Hot and white sky still. The kind of day that makes everything feel slightly permanent. Cody was at the east fence retensioning wire that had loosened after the last rain. Hands occupied, mind running. He heard her on the path before he saw her. That step, light and purposeful. The specific sound of someone who knows exactly where they are going. June came around the cottonwoods with her canvas bag. She was humming something low to herself, not performing it. Just the sound a person makes moving through a day that is going fine. She saw him. Raised a hand, he raised one back. She set her bag at the edge of the path and they talked the way they always did. No preamble. Walt's back improving. The new mattress his nephew had sent was helping. The wire tension issue and how it related to the post depth at the south corner. Whether the Hendersons were going to make it through harvest without borrowing equipment again. She asked intelligent follow-up questions about the fence that told him she had been paying attention to things she had no technical obligation to know. He was watching her. He had stopped pretending he wasn't. Her hands resting on the bag strap. The way she listened with her whole face. The fact that she was on this path again on a Tuesday because an old man needed soup and she was the person who had noticed. He was thinking about what Briggs had said. A fool if you don't see what's in front of you. He was thinking about Patty at the barbecue. All evening, he was thinking about a truck stopped in the dark on a county road and the thing he had not been able to put back. And then, without planning it, without rehearsing it, before the careful part of him could intercept it, June, she looked at him. "Whoever ends up with you," he said, "they're going to be a lucky person." He meant it as a true thing, an honest observation. He expected the modest deflection, the quick smile, the graceful dissolve. She went still. Her hand stopped on the bag strap. Color came into her face, not dramatic, slow. The way a room changes when someone turns a lamp up from the other side. She did not look at him immediately, then she did, and her expression was something he had never seen before. In all the fence-line mornings and barbecue evenings and road walks to Walt's place, it was open and afraid and already decided, all at once, like a door that has been closed a long time and has just been opened and is not going back. She said it quietly. "I was hoping it would be you." The creek ran. The cottonwoods shifted in the warm August air. Cody stood on his side of the fence and understood that something had changed between them. Something permanent. Something that could not be walked back from, and that he did not want to walk back from. He opened his mouth, "June," and then, because he was a man who tried, even when he was slow about it, to say what he meant. "I meant what I said." She was still looking at him. Steady. That full, complete attention she gave to things. "I know you did," she said. "That's why I said what I said." She looked down at the bag strap. Smoothed it once. "I've been thinking about you since the barbecue. Maybe before. I just didn't let myself look at it." Cody thought about a truck on a county road in the dark. An engine idling. The thing he had not been able to put back once he had looked at it directly. "I've been thinking about you longer than that," he said. "I was just slower getting there." She looked up, the fear still in her face, but the decision settling in around it. Taking up more space. "You're here now," she said. Not a question, not reassurance, a fact she was choosing to sit with. "I'm here," he said. She picked up her bag. "I have to get this to Walt, I know." She started up the path, then stopped, turned back once, and the look on her face was the one he was going to remember. Not the beauty of it, the honesty. "Come to dinner Thursday," she said. "Dad would like that." Not, "I would like that." She was not going to make it easy. She was not going to pretend this wasn't terrifying. But she was walking toward it. Thursday she nodded once, turned back to the path, went around the bend in the cottonwoods. Cody stood at the fence for a long time after she was gone. 6 years of not wanting things directly. 6 years of careful and managed and flat expectations and going to bed tired enough not to think, and here he was. Standing at a fence line in August in Tennessee, feeling something he had not let himself feel in a very long time. Afraid of it, yes, absolutely afraid of it, but standing here anyway. Still here, he pulled off his work gloves, walked back to the truck, drove home, fed the dog, checked the water troughs. Stood in the kitchen doorway looking at the second shelf of the bedroom closet. Did not take the coffee can down, not yet, but soon. He could feel the weight of soon, the specific gravity of a thing that has been waiting a long time and is done waiting. He sat on the porch until dark. The Alderman lights came on across the field, one by one yellow and warm and right there. He had looked at those lights for 6 years. Tonight they looked like something he might be allowed to walk toward, if he was ready. He sat with that in the warm dark. The dog put his head on Cody's knee. The valley went quiet, and Cody Whitmore, who had spent 6 years being careful, made himself a quiet promise in the dark, slower than he should have been, but getting there. Finally getting there. Earl Alderman was on the porch when Cody pulled up Thursday evening, not inside. Not in the barn, on the porch. In the chair that faced the driveway, which meant he had been sitting there long enough to have chosen it deliberately. Which meant June had said something, which meant Cody was walking into a conversation he had asked for, and was now standing beside his truck in the cooling September air, not entirely sure his legs were going to cooperate. They cooperated. He walked up anyway. Earl watched him come, said nothing until Cody reached the bottom porch step. Then he nodded at the empty chair beside him. The one that had always been there. The one Cody had sat in a dozen times over the years for reasons that had nothing to do with this. Cody sat. They looked at the last of the sunset going orange over the western ridge. The hills above Granger Valley in early September, still green but starting to think about changing. The air smelled like cut grass and the specific warmth of a day releasing its heat into the evening. Crickets going. A truck somewhere on the main road, distant. I'd like to come calling on June, Cody said. With your permission, he said it plainly. No preamble, no warm-up. Earl was quiet for a moment. Then, what took you so long? Not a question, a statement. The flat, patient tone of a man who has been waiting and is acknowledging, without drama, that the wait is over, Earl. If you'd rather I didn't, I'd rather you'd done it a year ago. Earl shifted in the chair, looked at the ridge. Donna and I have been watching you figure this out for 2 years. We were starting to think we needed to say something ourselves. Cody absorbed that. I'm slow, he said. You're careful, Earl's voice was even. Not unkind. That's a more generous word for the same thing, and it's true enough as far as it goes, he paused. June doesn't ask for things she doesn't need, she never has, but she deserves a man who sees her, not the useful parts. The whole of her, I see her, Cody said, quickly. Without qualification, meaning it down to the floor, Earl turned and looked at him. The way Earl Alderman looked at things, straight on, without hurry, like the world could wait while he finished forming an opinion. Then he nodded. Once, supper's at 6 most evenings, he said. Donna sets a good table. He stood up, opened the front door, held it. Cody went inside. Supper at the Aldermans was a thing Cody had experienced before, twice a month for years, easy and neighborly and unremarkable in the best sense of the word. It was not unremarkable now. He was aware of every plate being passed. Every moment June spoke, or didn't speak, or reached across the table for the salt. The particular way she did not quite look at him directly during the meal, which told him she was more aware of him than she was letting on, which told him a great deal. Donna Alderman moved through the meal with the warm efficiency of a woman who has fed many people many times and finds genuine pleasure in it. She talked about the Hendersons and the fall festival planning, and whether the church parking situation was going to get resolved before winter. She asked Cody about the herd and listened to his answer with actual interest. She refilled his water glass before he noticed it was low. It was the kind of hospitality that does not announce itself. Earl ate, spoke when spoken to, watched things. After supper, June poured coffee and they moved to the back porch while Donna found something in the kitchen that required extended attention and Earl discovered something in the barn. Neither exit was subtle. Both were merciful. They've been practicing that, June said, settling into the porch chair with her mug. For how long? According to my mother, approximately 2 years. She looked at him sideways. She was very specific about the 2 years. Cody sat in the chair across from her. The back porch looked out over the east field, the dark line of the fence, the cottonwoods along the creek invisible in the September dark. The same view he had from his own porch in reverse. I should have come sooner, he said. Yes, no softening it. No, it's okay or don't worry about it. Just yes, he respected that more than he could say. I knew something, he said, for a while. I just didn't let myself look at it directly, I know. She wrapped both hands around her mug. I know why. He looked at her. You lost your mom, she said. And after that you stopped. She paused, chose carefully. You stopped leaning forward into things, you held your ground, you kept everything running, but you stopped moving toward anything new. He was quiet for a moment. Was that visible? Not to most people. She looked at the dark field. I pay attention. He thought about the road to Walt's place. I'm nosy, she had said. You pay attention, he had said back. June, yeah. I'm moving forward now. She looked at him. That expression again, open and afraid and decided all at the same time. Like a door opened past the point of closing. I can see that, she said. They stayed on the porch until the air got cold. Talking about the ranch and the valley and what she was thinking about for the next few years and whether any of it lined up with what he was thinking about. It lined up more than he had let himself expect. He drove home under a sky full of stars and thought that this was what it felt like to move forward. Heavy and light at the same time. Like setting down something you had been carrying so long, you had stopped noticing the weight. He noticed now. And his hands felt strange without it, strange and free. September moved the way good things do when you are paying attention to them. Slowly. With substance, Cody had supper at the Aldermans 3 evenings a week. On the other evenings, June came to the farmhouse, which meant Cody's kitchen, which had been organized for one person's habits for 6 years, was now organized for 2 people's habits, which required some adjustment and produced exactly 0 conflict, because June Alderman approached kitchen logistics the way she approached everything. practically, and without drama. She moved through his space with the same ease she had everywhere, not taking over, not making herself small either, just present, her jacket on the hook by the back door, her boots beside his by the mat, the specific domestic fact of someone else's coffee mug in the drying rack. He liked it more than he knew how to say out loud, so he didn't say it. He just made sure she knew she was welcome, and let that be enough for now. They walked after supper when the light allowed, down to the fence line and back, or up the road toward the ridge, depending on the evening. They talked about the ranch, the valley, the decade ahead, the small things and the ones with more weight. He brought her wildflowers from the north pasture, chicory, Queen Anne's lace, a stem of goldenrod going amber at the tips. Not bought, just ones he noticed walking fence and thought she would like. She pressed them in a book without ceremony. He noticed her noticing things. The Henderson corn, Walt's window needing caulk, the soft spots developing in Earl's east pasture after the wet summer. She noticed on the third walk that Cody had gone quiet in a particular way. "What are you thinking?" she said. "Nothing bad. I know it's not bad. What is it?" He looked at the ridge going dark above them. "I'm trying to figure out if I'm any good at this." "At what this?" He gestured vaguely, being somewhere and meaning it, saying things. "I haven't had a lot of practice." She walked beside him for a moment without answering, then, "You're better at it than you think. You just don't have practice." She glanced at him. "Most people perform being present. You're actually here. That's rarer than you know." He thought about that for days afterward. He fixed the stuck gate on the Alderman property on a Saturday while Earl was at the co-op in town. Said nothing about it to anyone. Earl came home, noticed it, said nothing to Cody for 2 weeks. Then, one morning at the fence line, he reached across and shook Cody's hand. Firm, brief, nothing else. That said everything the words would have taken too long to carry. Donna Alderman found her way into the rhythm too, naturally the way Donna did things. She started appearing at the farmhouse on Sunday evenings with something she had made. A pie, a covered dish, once a jar of the apple butter she put up every fall. She sat at Cody's kitchen table and talked to June while Cody worked on whatever needed working on, and the house filled up with the sound of two women who liked each other, which was a sound Cody had not heard in that kitchen in 6 years. He did not say anything about it. He just left the kitchen light on when he went to the barn. The end of September came wrong, not all at once, the way bad things usually come, in pieces, each one manageable, the full weight only visible when you add them up. It started on a Tuesday. Not a good Tuesday, a dry, hot end of September Tuesday, the tale of a heat that had refused to break. Cody was moving cattle from the south pasture when he noticed the first one, standing apart from the herd, not eating, head carried low in the specific way that is not the way a healthy animal carries itself. He knew before the vet confirmed it. He called her by noon. She was out by 2, respiratory illness, fast moving. The kind that spreads in close quarters when the heat keeps animals clustered at the water troughs. She did what she could. Cody did everything right. Isolated the sick ones immediately, treated the ones that could be treated, adjusted the herd rotation, stayed up 2 consecutive nights with a flashlight and a notebook, making sure nothing that could be caught was getting missed. He lost 19 head in 10 days, 19 out of 86. He sat in the barn on the 4th night and did the math on a piece of paper, and then sat with the paper in his hand for a long time. The bank loan payment due in November. The winter feed order he had already placed. The vet bills accumulating. The replacement cost when he could afford to replace. And whether the when was going to be this year or next or the year after that, he put the paper in his shirt pocket. He did not call June. He told himself it was because there was nothing she could do, which was true. He told himself it was because it wasn't a problem, which was also true in a narrow, technical sense. The real reason was simpler and harder to say out loud. 6 years of handling difficulty alone had not given him a language for I am struggling, and I need someone to know that. He knew how to fix things. He knew how to work the problem. He did not know how to sit across from someone he cared about and let her see him in a hard moment without immediately trying to resolve the hard moment so she didn't have to look at it. So he handled it the way he had always handled things. Alone. He came to supper less, said he had things to manage, which was true, answered June's texts more slowly, kept his evenings shorter when he did come, did not explain. June noticed. He knew she noticed because June noticed everything, but she said nothing for 2 weeks. Not out of passivity, that was not June, but out of the specific patience of someone watching a situation and choosing her moment, he would understand this later. In the meantime, he kept his head down and worked the problem, and told himself he was protecting her from something that was not her concern. He did not examine that thought too carefully. He should have. He did not know about Derek Paulson's second attempt until Patty told him. Patty told him in the feed store parking lot in mid-October, in the direct manner of a woman who believes that people should have accurate information even when it is uncomfortable. Derek asked June to dinner before he left, Patty said. A few weeks back. She said no. Clearly, Cody looked at her. He's leaving. Took the Knoxville job after all. Decided rural life wasn't for him. Patty met his eyes. She said no 3 weeks ago. Cody. Before the supper situation changed, before any of it, a pause. I thought the timeline mattered. He stood in the parking lot for a moment. Why are you telling me this? Because you've been acting like a man who thinks he's been outrun by someone who already left the race. She picked up her bag. And because June doesn't deserve to pay for your math being wrong, she walked to her car. He stood there, Derek had asked. June had said no, and then, after saying no, knowing what she wanted, she had come to the fence line in August and said, I was hoping it would be you. She had not been weighing her options. She had already decided. And he had been pulling back from a competition that was never happening. He drove home slowly, parked in the yard, sat in the truck with the engine off, thought about the paper in his shirt pocket with the November numbers on it. Thought about 19 empty stalls. Thought about June at his kitchen table with her jacket on the hook by the door, asking him about the wire tension issue with the specific follow-up questions of someone who had been paying attention. He thought about what he had done with that. He got out of the truck, stood in the yard. The evening was coming in cold. The field was quiet. The farmhouse sat dark behind him. And across the field, through the line of the fence, the Alderman lights were on. Yellow and warm, one in the kitchen, one on the back porch, the specific pattern of a household going about its evening. He had spent 2 weeks pulling back from that, for reasons that had felt like protection and were actually fear wearing the coat of something more generous. He went inside, made coffee, did not drink it, stood at the kitchen window looking east until the dark was complete, and the Alderman lights were the only reference point left. Then he went to bed, stared at the ceiling for an hour, made a decision. It was a Thursday in mid-October when June came to the fence line. He heard her truck on the gravel road. Not her walking step, her truck, which meant she had driven down deliberately, which meant this was not a passing and she was not pretending otherwise. He was already at the fence when she parked and got out. She walked across the short grass to the wire, stopped on her side. 6 feet of October air between them and the creek visible behind her, and her breath just beginning to show in the cold. She did not look angry. He had braced for anger. She had every right to it. But her face was clear, set. The composed expression she had worn at the first Thursday supper. But underneath it, something that was not calm at all. Something that had been sitting with itself and was done waiting. Are you done? She said. June. I'm not here to fight. Her voice was even. I want to understand. You pulled back. 3 weeks. I want to know if you changed your mind. Or if something else is happening that you decided I don't get to know about. He looked at the wire between them, said the numbers out loud. The illness, the 19 head, the timeline, the financial picture through the next 18 months if nothing else went wrong. Said it flat and plain, like reading off a page, because if he put any feeling into it, he did not know what would happen to his voice. June listened without interrupting. Her expression did not change. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Okay, she said. I didn't want to make it your problem. She said it before he finished. Not sharp, just exact. Yes, she looked at him steadily. Cody, can I say something? Yeah, that's not your call, no heat in it. Just the clear statement of a fact, whether I know about it, whether I get to decide what I can handle. You made that decision for me. She paused. I understand why. I do. But it belongs to me, not you. He had nothing to say that, because there was nothing to say. She was right, not partially right, entirely right. I've been in this valley my whole life, she said. I know what a hard season looks like. I know what recovery looks like. I know what it looks like when a man is carrying something alone, because he doesn't know how to ask for help or doesn't think he deserves it. She stopped, breathed. I wasn't asking you to be fixed. I was asking to stand next to you while it was hard. Those are different things. The creek ran behind her. The cottonwoods were going gold, dropping leaves one at a time. A gust came through and she tucked her chin against it. Cody looked at the wire. "I don't know how to do that," he said. "Let someone stand next to me. I've been doing this alone for a long time." He stopped. "It's the only way I know that. It's not about you. It's not about anything except." He looked up at her. Said it plainly because she deserved plain. "I thought you deserved someone without all of this. Someone who didn't come with a crisis attached." She stared at him, and something crossed her face. Not anger, not hurt. Something that was almost a laugh but wasn't quite. The expression of a person who has just heard the thing they suspected and finds it equal parts frustrating and heartbreaking. Cody Whitmore. She said, "Yeah, that is the most." She stopped, breathed through it. "That is a scared thought wearing the clothes of a generous one." He said nothing. "I don't need someone without complications." Her voice was steady, each word carrying its weight. "I need someone who tells me the truth. And I need to be the one who decides what I can handle. Not you, me." She held his eyes. "Do you understand the difference?" "Yes." "Then act like it." Silence. Long the valley holding its breath around them, the way it does in October when the color is at its height and everything is both arriving and leaving at the same time. "You're right," he said. "About all of it. The decision wasn't mine, and I was scared. I am scared." He looked at her over the wire. "I've been scared since July in a truck in the dark." Something in her face shifted. Not all the way, but enough to see. "I've been scared too," she said quietly. Neither of them said anything for a moment. The wind moved through the cottonwoods and another cluster of gold leaves let go and drifted down to the creek. "I'm tired of being careful," Cody said. "I've been careful for 6 years. I'm tired of it." "Then stop." "It's not. I know it's not easy." She looked at him without flinching. "Stop anyway. Make a different choice." She reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out her truck keys, held them loosely. "Come to supper Saturday," she said. "Don't clean yourself up first. Don't fix the numbers before you walk in the door. Bring whatever you're carrying." She met his eyes one more time, direct and clear as the October air between them. "I want the actual version of you. Not the one you think is ready to be seen." She walked back to her truck, got in, the engine turned over. She pulled back up the gravel road and over the rise, and her taillights disappeared, and the sound of her engine faded, and then the valley was quiet again. Cody stood at the fence line alone. The evening was coming in cold and fast, the way October evenings in Tennessee do when they mean it. The field behind him empty, the farmhouse dark on the rise, no warmth visible anywhere in his direction. He looked east. The Alderman lights coming on one by one across the field, kitchen first, then the back porch. Then the upstairs room that was June's, the one that faced east over the property line, the window he could see from his own yard on clear nights. He had been looking at those lights for 6 years. He understood now what he had been doing every time he looked at them and looked away. He was done looking away. He went inside, did not sleep well, did not expect to. Saturday came gray and cold, clouds moving in from the west, the smell of rain in the air. He drove to the Alderman's at 5:30. Earl was on the porch when he pulled up, which was different from Thursday evenings. Earl was usually inside by 5:30 this time of year. He had waited on the porch. Cody got out of the truck. Earl stood. They sat in the cold. No sunset to look at tonight. Just the great light going grayer, the hills disappearing into cloud. Cody told him all of it. The illness, the 19 head, the current numbers, the November loan payment, what the next 12 to 18 months looked like if everything went right, and what they looked like if anything else went sideways. He said it without softening it. He was not asking for help. He said that clearly. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm done." He stopped, started again. "I'm done cleaning it up before I bring it in front of people." Earl listened to every word. When Cody finished, Earl sat with it for a moment, just sat. The way Earl sat with things, without rushing to fill the space. Then he said, "You know what I just heard?" Cody waited. "A man who knows exactly where he stands." Earl looked at the dark field. "Who knows what he's working with and what he's going to do about it?" "That's not a man with a crisis, Cody. That's a man with a plan in a hard season. There's a considerable difference between those two things." Cody said nothing. "I've had hard seasons," Earl said. "The flood of 2009 took out the hay crop and 2 fences and more than I want to think about. The drought in 2012 was worse. Donna knew every number, every time. She stood right next to me through all of it." He paused. "You know what that did?" "What?" "It meant the weight wasn't all mine. Even when she couldn't fix it. Even when nobody could fix it and we just had to get through it. He looked at Cody. That's not a burden you put on someone. That's a partnership. Different thing entirely. Cody looked at his hands. I don't have practice with that, he said. I know. You'll get it. Earl stood. Supper's warm. Come inside. He held the door. Cody went through it. No ceremony, no speeches. Just a man being told he was allowed in, and choosing to walk through the door that was being held for him. And inside, June was at the stove with her back to him, and she heard the door, and she turned, and she looked at him for a moment, just a moment, with the expression that was not surprise and not relief but something quieter than either, like the answer to a question she had been sitting with for a long time. Sit down, she said. It's almost ready. He sat down, and it was. The ring fit. That was the first thing June said to Donna the next morning. Not he proposed or we're engaged or even yes, Mom, you were right, you were completely right about all of it. Just those 3 words. Standing in the kitchen doorway with her left hand held slightly out from her side, like she was still getting used to the weight of the thing, the ring fit. Like that was the detail that made it real. Like the universe had confirmed something by making it true. Donna looked at the ring, looked at June's face, covered her mouth with both hands, and cried, the good kind, the overwhelmed kind, the kind that comes from hoping for something a long time, and finally being allowed to feel it fully. She reached for June's hands and held them and looked at the ring and then at her daughter's face and back at the ring. Earl came in from the barn. Took one look at the 2 of them, looked at the ring, said, huh. Finally went back to the barn, which was, for Earl Alderman, the emotional equivalent of a standing ovation. Cody drove out to Walt Briggs on a Thursday morning, 2 days after the November fence line, Gravel Road. Parked at the gate because Walt still required it, and Cody had long since stopped having opinions about Walt's preferences. Walked up to the house in the cold. The sky was flat and white, the hills stripped down to their bones now, the last of the color gone. Walt was in the kitchen, chair by the window, coffee going. He looked up when Cody came in and his expression did the thing it always did. Assessment first, welcome second. If welcome was warranted, Walt, well what? Don't play dumb. June was Tuesday with soup and she was, he gestured with one hand. The vague gesture of a man trying to describe something his vocabulary doesn't quite reach. Different. The settled kind of different. Cody sat down across from him. I asked her, he said. Walt looked at him for a long moment, then he picked up his coffee mug, raised it slightly, the way a man raises a glass when he means something by it. Took you long enough, he said. That seems to be the general view. Smart Valley. Walt drank, set the mug down, looked at the window at the gray hills beyond it. Your mother would have liked that girl. Cody went still. Walt rarely said Carol Whitmore's name. He had known her. They had all known each other. The way people know each other in small places where history is shared property. But Walt was not a man who spoke the names of the dead lightly. The fact that he said it now, plainly, like a thing that needed saying, meant something. I know, Cody said. Quietly, she was a real woman, your mother, not performing at it, just real. Walt looked back at him. June's the same way. You notice that about a person or you don't. Most people don't, he paused. You noticed? Cody did not trust his voice for a moment. Yeah, he said. Walt nodded. Picked up his mug again. Now, tell me about the herd situation. How bad is November looking? And that was that, no more ceremony. They talked cattle and feed costs and the county road commissioner for another 40 minutes. And Cody drove home in the flat November light feeling something he recognized after a moment as being seen. By an old man in a kitchen chair. By someone who had known his mother and was now telling him, in the only way Walt Briggs knew how to say things, that she would have approved of what he had finally done. He drove home slowly. He had nowhere to be until supper. For the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. Patty Kern called on a Friday afternoon. Congratulations, she said, before he had fully said hello. How do you already know? Donna told Ruth Henderson at the extension office this morning. Ruth told me before lunch. Also, I could tell something was shifting in October when you started acting like a man trying to disappear into his own fence posts, and then something shifted again last week, so I was paying attention. A pause. I'm glad, Cody. She's wonderful, I know. Don't mess it up. I'm trying not to. That's all any of us manage. Her voice softened a degree which for Patty was significant. Come to the extension potluck next month. Bring June. Let people celebrate you properly, he said he would, and meant it. The calls and conversations that followed over the next week had a pattern to them. People who had known him his whole life saying finally or some version of it, each one delivered with the particular mix of warmth and mild exasperation that told him his feelings had been considerably more visible than he had believed. 6 people used the word finally. He counted. He deserved every one of them. Donna Alderman, for her part, did not say finally. She came to the farmhouse on Sunday with a covered dish and a jar of apple butter and sat at the kitchen table and looked at Cody for a long moment before she said anything. She has been patient, Donna said. I know she has, more than patient. She never said a word about it to us. Not once. Donna looked at her hands. She just waited. Without bitterness, without performing the waiting, she looked up. That's not a small thing, Cody. No, he said, it's not. So don't make her wait for anything else. I won't, Donna nodded. Stude patted his hand once, the way she had done since he was 22 and eating at their table because his mother was gone and he needed somewhere to be. Then she went back to the kitchen to talk to June. And Cody sat with what she had said. June had waited, quietly, without making him feel the weight of the waiting. And when the moment came, she had not deflected or performed modesty or made it easier for either of them by looking away. She had said the true thing. I was hoping it would be you. He was going to spend a long time being grateful for that. November settled in cold and clear, the kind of cold that comes to Tennessee and means it. Hard frost by morning, the fields pale and still, the creek running dark between its banks. Cody worked the ranch in the gray early light and found, for the first time in years, that the work had a different quality to it. Not easier. The cattle still needed what they needed, the fence still needed checking, the equipment still needed maintaining through the shoulder season. But there was something underneath the days now that had not been there before. Something with warmth in it. He was moving towards something. He knew what the lights across the field were. He spent evenings at the Aldermans 3 nights a week. June came to the farmhouse on the others. His kitchen, which had been organized around one person's habits for 6 years, was reorganizing itself around 2 people's habits, which required adjustment and produced no conflict because June approached logistics the way she approached everything, directly and without fuss. He told her the full financial picture on a Sunday walk. All of it the way he had told Earl. Plain, no softening, no pre-editing. She listened and asked 2 questions, timeline and feed cost, and then said, okay, what can I help with? Not, I'm sorry. Not, that's a lot, what can I help with? He looked at her. The bookkeeping, he said. I've been keeping track in a notebook and I've missed things. I know I've missed things. Bring the notebook. June, you don't have to. Cody. She looked at him steadily. Bring the notebook. He brought the notebook. She spent 3 evenings at his kitchen table going through it, organized it into a system that made sense. Found 2 billing errors from the vet's office, one from September, one from October, that corrected in his favor by more than he had expected. Built a spreadsheet and walked him through it until he could maintain it himself. She did it efficiently, without making him feel like he had failed by needing it, without making it a gesture of charity or a demonstration of her capability. She did it the way Earl had shown up for calving the spring after Carol Whitmore died, because it needed doing and she was there, and that was the whole of the explanation. He watched her across the table one evening, bent over the notebook with a pencil behind her ear, the kitchen light falling across her shoulders, and thought about what Earl had said on the porch in October. It means the weight isn't all yours. This was what that looked like, not rescue. Not being saved, just, you are not carrying this alone. He had not known, until this particular evening in November, in his own kitchen, with the notebook spread open between them, how much he had needed that. How long he had needed it and refused to let himself have it. He did not say this out loud, but he thought June knew. She had a way of knowing things without requiring them to be said. He was starting to understand that this was one of the ways she showed love. By not making you perform the feelings before she acknowledged them, he fixed the kitchen faucet that week. Properly, finally, the one that had dripped for 2 years if you didn't turn it all the way off. He replaced the fitting and the washers and the handle, and it worked right after that, smooth and quiet. June turned it on and off twice when she noticed, said nothing. But she was smiling when she turned back to the counter. He found the letter on a Saturday in late November. He had not been looking for it. He had been cleaning the storage room off the bedroom, the one that held 6 years of things he had not dealt with, The boxes from his mother's room that he had moved twice without opening. Old paperwork from the first year of running the ranch alone. When everything had been held together by stubbornness and neighbors and the specific determination of someone who does not have the option of falling apart. The box was in the back corner. His mother's handwriting on the side in blue marker. Books, letters. He had walked past it dozens of times. He opened it now. Books on top, a few paperbacks with cracked spines. A Bible with her name written in the front cover in the careful cursive she had used for formal things. A recipe binder held shut with a rubber band that had dried and stiffened. He set those aside, and underneath in a manila envelope folded once a letter, his name on the outside. Cody in her handwriting, the C looping and direct, the way she had always made it. He sat down on the floor of the storage room, held it. He had known, in some quiet part of himself, that something like this might exist. His mother had been a practical woman, not given to grand gestures, but she had also been thorough. She did not leave loose ends if she could help it. The fact that she had written this and not sent it, sealed it in a box with her books, where it had waited 6 years for him to be ready to open it, told him something about the kind of woman she had been, patient, precise, willing to wait for the right moment even when she had to trust someone else to find it. He unfolded it, her handwriting, steady and even. The way she did everything, Cody. I've been thinking about what I want for you and I don't know how to say it to your face without both of us getting uncomfortable, so I'm writing it down, which is probably worse. But here we are. He almost laughed. Almost. What I want is simple. I want you to find someone real, not someone impressive, not someone easy, someone real, the kind of person who makes ordinary days feel like they matter, who does the actual things, not the showy ones, who shows up on the bad Tuesdays and doesn't ask you to be anything other than what you are on those days. You are going to be tempted, when things get hard, to decide you're not enough. You are going to want to protect the people you love by stepping back from them. I know this about you because I watched you do it when you were 12 years old and your father left, and you decided the best thing you could do was stop needing things from people, because needing things led to loss. You have been doing that version of careful ever since. It has kept you standing. I am proud of you for staying standing. But Cody, standing is not the same as living. When you find the real one, and you will find her, I know you will, because you are the kind of man worth finding. Don't step back. Step toward. Even when you don't feel ready. Especially then, she is going to be worth it. And so are you. You have always been worth it. I need you to know that. Love, Mom. He sat on the floor of the storage room for a long time. The house was quiet around him. Outside, wind moved through the bare trees at the edge of the property. The furnace clicked on in the basement, normal sounds. The sounds of a house doing what it does. He read the letter twice. Then he folded it carefully along its original creases and put it back in the envelope and sat with it in both hands. He thought about a woman who had died at 49 with things still left to say. He thought about a box in a corner that had waited 6 years. He thought about a fence line in August and a creek, and I was hoping it would be you. He thought about an October evening and I was asking to stand next to you while it was hard, steep toward. Even when you don't feel ready, especially then, he had done that. Slower than he should have. With detours. With fear in the way that he had dressed up as consideration and let himself believe was generosity. But he had gotten there. And here was what was on the other side. He got up off the floor, went to the bedroom closet, reached up to the second shelf. The coffee can was where it had always been. He took it down, opened it. The ring was inside. His mother's ring, a simple silver band with a small pale stone, nothing elaborate. Carol Whitmore had not been an elaborate woman. She had been a real one. He held it in his palm. He had not taken it out since the week of her funeral. Had not let himself look at it directly. Too much of what it held. Too much of what he had lost and what he had not been able to keep. But sitting in his hand now, in the grey November light coming through the bedroom window, it did not feel like loss. It felt like something waiting, something patient. He closed his fingers around it, put it in his jacket pocket. He did not go that night. He waited. Not from fear, from the specific patience of a man who knows what he wants to say and wants to say it right. He carried the ring for 3 weeks. He thought about what to say. He decided eventually that what he wanted to say was not complicated. It did not need to be. She was not a woman who wanted complicated. She wanted true. He went on a Thursday in late November, cold enough that their breath showed. The cottonwoods had gone bare, their branches dark against the white sky, a few last leaves still clinging. The creek ran clear and low in its banks. He texted her from the driveway, "Creek path, when you have a minute." She came down 20 minutes later in her wool jacket with her hair loose the way it sometimes was at the end of the day. She walked the path without hurrying. When she came around the bend and saw him at the fence, something in her face went still, not afraid, just still. The way a person goes still when they understand what is happening before the first word is said. She stopped on her side of the fence. "Cody, I have something I want to say," he said. "And I'd like to get through it without interruption." She pressed her lips together, something close to a smile. "Not quite." "Okay," she said. He looked at her. "I was slow," he said. "I know I was slow. It took me longer than it should have to look at what was right in front of me. And when I finally looked, I handled it badly, and you had to drive to a fence line in October and tell me to stop making decisions for you." He paused. "I'm done doing that. I'm not going to protect myself by pulling back anymore. I'm done with that version of careful." She was perfectly still, listening with her whole self. "I see you," he said. "Not the useful parts, not the neighbor's daughter I've known for 6 years, you. The way you walked to an old man's house 3 times a week without being asked and without making anyone feel the debt of it. The way you sat at my kitchen table and fixed my bookkeeping without making me feel like I'd failed. The way you said, 'What can I help with?' instead of 'I'm sorry' when everything was hard." He stopped, drew a breath. "I want to build something with you. A home, a life, whatever it looks like on the other side of all this. I want it with you." He reached into his jacket pocket, held out the ring. "My mother's," he said. "She wrote me a letter. I found it last month. She said she wanted me to find someone real, someone who makes ordinary days feel like they matter." He met June's eyes. "She found you before I did." June looked at the ring, then looked at him. Her eyes were bright. Not crying, not yet, but close to the surface in the way that means the feeling is right there and is only staying contained by some real effort. "Cody Whitmore," she said. "Yeah, it took you long enough. Is that a yes?" She reached across the fence, took the ring from his hand, looked at it for a moment. Just a moment, with an expression that was not about the ring but about everything the ring meant. About the woman who had worn it and the man who had kept it, and the 6 years between then and now and all the ordinary days that had quietly become something. Then she held out her left hand. He put the ring on her finger. It fit. She looked at it, then looked up at him. "It's a yes," she said. "It was always going to be a yes," he laughed. "Didn't plan to. Just did, I know," he said. "I know that now." She shook her head, small and fond. The expression she got when he said something true and ridiculous at the same time. "Come over here," she said. He went over the fence. Not gracefully, but over. And then she was in front of him and he kissed her for the first time. And the creek moved past them the way it always had, faithful and indifferent to everything except its own direction. And the bare cottonwoods stood in the cold November air, and Granger Valley was quiet and dark and entirely itself. Except now it was something he was allowed to want, something he was walking toward, on purpose, finally. The wedding was on a Saturday in April, the kind of April day Tennessee produces when it has been saving something up. Sky washed deep blue after a week of rain, the hills green and loud with color, the air warm enough for bare arms in the afternoon and cool enough in the morning for the light wool wrap June wore over her dress until the ceremony started. The dress was Donna's work. 4 months of it, ivory cotton, simple lines, embroidered at the collar in a small repeating pattern that June had sketched on a piece of paper one evening and Donna had made real. Not elaborate, not trying to be more than it was. Just honest and carefully made, the way Donna made everything. They held the ceremony in the field behind the Alderman farmhouse, the field that backed up against the tree line and looked out over both properties. Earl's land, Cody's land, the fence line between them visible if you knew where to look, which everyone there did. Granger Valley came. The Hendersons, the Hutchins family, Dale and his wife, and their youngest who had grown 4 inches since the summer barbecue. Patty Kern in a yellow dress she had clearly purchased for the occasion, and was carrying with the energy of a woman who had been right about something for 2 years, and was allowing herself the satisfaction of it. Walt Briggs was there in his good jacket, sitting in a chair that someone had thought to bring because his back was his back and it was not going to cooperate with standing for 20 minutes regardless of the occasion. Walt had objected to the chair. Walt had sat in it without further objection for the entire ceremony, which was for Walt remarkable restraint. Reverend Mills kept it short. Cody was grateful for this. He had attended weddings where the ceremony was long enough to test the faith it was meant to celebrate, and he had always thought that was a problem of priorities. June came across the field on Earl's arm, the blue sky behind her, the green hills, the cottonwoods at the far property line showing their new leaves, pale and bright in the April light. And June, walking toward him with her face clear and certain and entirely herself, not performing anything, not arranged into a version of herself for the occasion, just June the way she always was, moving with purpose towards something she had already decided. Cody had a thought, brief and complete and undeniable. "I cannot believe I was slow about this," he said, his vows looking directly at her. They were for her, not for the field full of people. She said hers the same way. Two people speaking to each other in front of witnesses, saying the private things out loud because some things need witnesses. When Reverend Mills asked who gave this woman, Earl's voice cracked on the two words of his answer. Just those two words, and his voice cracked, and it sent a sympathetic current through the first three rows that included Donna and Ruth Henderson and, quietly and with clear annoyance at herself, Patty Kern. Walt Briggs did not crack. Walt Briggs made a sound of unmistakable approval when Cody kissed June that was audible from the second row. Old Ray Hutchins played fiddle while people ate on the grass and talked and danced until the sun was behind the western ridge. The kind of afternoon that does not announce itself as significant while it is happening but sits in a person's memory for the rest of their life, not because anything spectacular occurred, but because everything that mattered was present at the same time. That night Cody drove his wife home, his house, their house, the farmhouse with the new back roof and the properly fixed kitchen faucet and the bedroom closet with an empty coffee can on the second shelf. She had moved things in over the previous weeks. Her books, her cast-iron skillet, the small framed photo of her parents that went on the bookshelf in the front room, the specific items that constituted the material evidence of a life relocating. The house had been rearranging itself around two people for months. Tonight it was simply, finally, complete. He led her into the kitchen. She stopped in the doorway, reading his expressions. "What are you doing?" she said. "Something I want you to see." He pointed at the east wall. She turned. Where there had been solid plaster since the house was built, there was now a window. Not large, proportional, fitted to the wall, wood-framed and painted white to match the trim. Set at exactly the height to catch the morning light as it came over the eastern ridge. He had measured it in December. Cut the opening in January, working in the unheated kitchen with his breath showing, and the cold making everything slower. Framed it and glazed it and finished it in February. Done it on the days she was not there, quietly, because he had wanted it finished before she arrived, before she said yes. Before he asked, because that was the point. He had not built it as a gift. He had built it because the house was going to be hers, and he had wanted something ready for her arrival. Something that said, without requiring words, "I was thinking of you in the dark of winter. I made something for when you got here." Before you agreed to come, June stood looking at the window for a long moment. The April evening light came through it sideways, gold and warm, the last of the day's sun finding the glass and coming through it exactly the way he had calculated it would. "Cody, yeah. When did you do this, January?" Finished in February, she turned to look at him. Slowly, "We hadn't. You hadn't asked me yet." "No. You built this before you said yes." He held her gaze. "I built it because I knew what I was going to ask. And I wanted you to have good light in the mornings." He paused. "I wanted something ready for when you got here." She looked at him for a long moment, then at the window, then back at him. Her eyes were doing the bright thing, the surface close thing, staying contained by effort. She crossed the kitchen, took his hand, held it the way you hold something you have decided is yours and intend to keep. Not tight, not desperate, just certain. "Thank you," she said. 3 words. No performance. No elaboration. He understood that she was not thanking him for the window. She was thanking him for what the window meant, that he had thought of her in the cold and the dark and the uncertainty, before the answer was given and had made something ready. That love, when it is real and not performing itself, turns east and waits for the morning and does not require an audience. He closed his hand around hers. "Welcome home," he said. She leaned into him. Outside, Granger Valley went quiet in the April dark. The creek moved in its banks. The cottonwoods stood in their new leaves, and in the farmhouse kitchen, through a window facing east, the last of the evening light held for a moment longer than it had any right to, then let go the way things do when they are ready. The first year was not a fairy tale. He would say that plainly if anyone asked. It was a real year, built from real days. Two people learning how to share a life that had previously belonged entirely to one of them. There were adjustments, some of them small and some of them not small. The financial recovery from the September losses required patience and careful management through the winter and into the spring. Cody had a plan. He had always had the plan. But plans in agriculture run on weather and markets and the specific patience of someone who has learned that recovery is not a straight line. There were weeks when June's spreadsheet showed numbers that required both of them to sit with discomfort and not let it become a thing between them. They got better at that, not immediately, steadily. There was the matter of two people's habits inhabiting a shared space. June had strong opinions about kitchen organization that differed from Cody's, which were less opinions than accumulated inertia from 6 years of solitude. This required a conversation. The conversation was honest and slightly uncomfortable, and produced a compromise that worked and also produced, in the process, a clearer understanding of how they each communicated when they were frustrated, which was more valuable than the compromise. There was the slower matter of Cody learning, not just knowing but actually feeling, in the moment, in the body, that he was allowed to ask for help. That June, sitting across the table with the bookkeeping, was not a comment on his competence but a fact of partnership. He had understood this intellectually since October. The feeling of it took longer. He was still working on it at month 3, at month 6, at month 9. June was patient, firm when she needed to be, not endlessly accommodating. She had the spine Patty Kern had always said she had, but patient in the way that means, "I know this takes time and I am not going anywhere while you learn it." He told her he loved her. Not every day, that would have been performance, but sometimes, at the kitchen table with the east window behind her and the morning light coming through exactly the way he had designed it to, he would look at her and say it simply. She would look up from whatever she was doing, say, "I know, you fixed my father's gate," which was her way of saying, "I see how you love, I receive it. It counts." June started the sharing program in March of that first year. She called it a lending library, which Cody thought was too modest for what it actually was. She had noticed, through the hard months of the previous fall, that the smaller farms in Granger Valley were all experiencing the same cycles of need at the same time. Equipment needed for brief windows, specialty tools sitting idle between seasons, supplies that larger operations could buy in bulk but smaller ones couldn't access at the same price. She made a list, then a spreadsheet, then she made calls. Within 6 weeks, 8 farms in Granger Valley were sharing equipment access on a rotating schedule and bulk ordering feed and seed through a collective that saved every operation on the list meaningful money. She organized it from the kitchen table on Thursday evenings, coordinating logistics by phone and text, building something systematic out of the simple observation that neighbors had things other neighbors needed, and no one had thought to organize it. Dale Henderson called it a co-op. She told Cody one evening, "Dale's right, it's not that formal." June, he looked at her. "There are 11 farms on the list." She looked back at the spreadsheet. 13, she said. He smiled. She did not quite smile back, but she did not look displeased. Walt Briggs had a difficult stretch in August of the first year. His heart this time, 2 days in the county hospital, a medication adjustment, a lecture from the cardiologist that Walt described as excessive, and that his nephew described as probably necessary, and that everyone else quietly agreed had been a long time coming. June was there every other day during his recovery. Soup, company, the practical management of firewood and water. Cody came from twice. The second time, Walt looked at him from the kitchen chair and said, with the directness he saved for the things that mattered, "You did right." Cody looked at him. "Getting there," Walt said, asking her, "Your mother raised you right. You took your time about it, but you did right by the end." Cody sat across from him in the chair he had been sitting in for years. Outside, the summer was thick and green. Down the road in the farmhouse kitchen, June was at the table with her 13th farmer and the spreadsheet and a cup of coffee going cold while she worked. "Thank you," Cody said. Walt waved a hand. "Don't make it a thing. Tell me about the Henderson Hay situation. I hear there's a problem with the East Baylor, and they talked about the Baylor. And that was exactly right. Margaret arrived in April of the third year spring. When the hills were green and the sky was the deep blue that follows rain, and the valley smelled like wet earth and new grass. She arrived with strong opinions and no hesitation about expressing them, which surprised no one who knew either of her parents. She had June's eyes, dark and direct and entirely their own. She had Cody's stubbornness, which June identified within the first 2 weeks and noted with a fond resignation that suggested she had been expecting it and had made her peace with it in advance. Cody held his daughter in the hospital room while June slept and thought about a letter in a manila envelope. About a woman who had written it and not sent it and trusted him to find it at the right time, someone real. Someone who makes ordinary days feel like they matter. He looked at the baby in his arms. "Hi," he said, quietly. "I'm your dad. I'm going to try to do this right." He paused. "Your grandmother would have liked you." She was good at knowing who people were going to be. Margaret looked at him with the ancient, temporary gravity of newborns. He took that as agreement. They named her Margaret Carol Whitmore. Because there was no question about the middle name, not once June had read the letter. June had read it in November, sitting at the kitchen table, and when she finished, she had folded it carefully and held it in both hands for a moment, and then looked at Cody and said, "She knew, didn't she?" "Before you did." "Yes," he said. "She was patient. She was." June had looked at the letter again. "Carol," she said. Not a question. A decision already made. He had nodded. That was all it took. The 5th year arrived the way good years do when you are inside them. Without announcement, without ceremony. Just Tuesday becoming Wednesday, becoming the particular Thursday, when Cody stood at the east fence line in October and realized, with the full clarity of a man who has been paying attention, that 5 years had passed and everything was different and everything was exactly right. The herd stood at 108 head. Better than before the losses, because the hard season of year 1 had forced decisions he had been postponing. Better breeding stock, smarter pasture rotation, the improvements you make when difficulty teaches you what you were doing from habit versus what was actually working. The bank loan was 2 years from finished. The farmhouse had a new water heater and a back porch that did not lean. June's co-op, she had stopped objecting to the word somewhere in the 2nd year, had 19 farms enrolled. The county agricultural newsletter had written about it. The extension office had called Patty, who had given June's name with the satisfaction of someone whose long-held assessment had been formally confirmed. June had been on the phone about it 3 times in 1 week and was simultaneously overwhelmed and energized, which was exactly how she was with things she cared about, both at the same time. Moving fast and not stopping. Earl's hair had gone from gray to white. He moved slower in the mornings. He was still on his property every day by 6, still at the fence line when something needed checking, still the man who showed up without being asked and never mentioned it afterward. He would be that man Cody knew until he couldn't be, and probably a little past that Donna had taken up quilting. She brought pieces to the farmhouse on Sunday evenings now, and worked at the kitchen table while June cooked and Cody managed whatever needed managing, and Margaret moved between them with the focused determination of a 2-year-old who has important places to be. The farmhouse had become, without design, the kind of house where people gathered. Door open, something on the stove, the particular warmth of a place where presence is always welcome. Cody had not planned this. June had not planned it. It had simply become what the house was when 2 people who believed in showing up lived in it. He was at the east fence line on a Tuesday in October. Same section, same posts. The spring floods had taken them again the way they always did and always would. He had replaced 2 posts and retensioned the wire and was checking the 3rd when he heard them on the path. 2 sets of footsteps now, one purposeful and familiar, one small and absolutely committed to keeping up, which Margaret was at 2 years old, deeply committed to things, no patience for the gap between intention and capability, furious and undeterred in equal measure. He looked up. June came around the bend in the cottonwoods. Margaret was 3 steps ahead, which was apparently the correct and non-negotiable distance. She wore her red jacket, her small boots. She walked with the concentrated seriousness of someone navigating important terrain. She saw Cody, stopped, looked at him, said, "Daddy," 1 word. Flat, decisive. A statement of fact that also constituted a complete social transaction. He crouched down. "Hey, Bug." She closed the last 3 steps with full professional gravity. He picked her up. She grabbed his jacket lapel, looked at the fence with assessment, and said something that was approximately the word fence and entirely confident about it. "You're right," he said. "That's the fence." She considered it, filed it, moved her attention to the creek. June reached them and leaned against the post. She was looking at him with a particular expression, something remembering. "Something circling back, you know," she said. He looked at her. "Whoever ended up with you," she held his gaze. "Warm, steady, they're pretty lucky." He looked at her. "I'm the lucky one," he said. She shook her head. Light fond, the exact same way she had shaken it on a November evening at a fence line when he had said something simultaneously true and not quite enough. "We're both lucky," she said. "Don't make it competitive." Margaret, from his arms, issued a firm and authoritative statement that both of them interpreted as agreement. He set her down. She walked 3 determined steps toward the creek and stopped to examine something in the grass with the total focus of a scientist who has discovered something worth investigating. June moved to stand beside Cody. Her shoulder against his arm. Warm in the October cold, the cottonwoods were gold and letting go. A leaf here, a leaf there, carried down by the breeze to the water and then taken by the current. The creek ran clear and low. The hills above the valley were turning at their edges, the Tennessee October doing what it always did, offering everything it had while it had it and not pretending it would last. Cody looked at the fence line. The new post seated right, the wire holding its tension, the same fence he had been fixing for years. The same creek, the same path through the cottonwoods where he had first heard her step and not yet understood what it meant. He thought about a truck stopped on a county road in the dark in June, about a pale blue sundress and a laugh with a head tipped back, about a woman crouching at a creek bank actually looking at a problem, about "I was hoping it would be you," about "that is not your decision to make," about a letter folded in a manila envelope, waiting 6 years in a box in a corner, about a ring in a coffee can, about a window facing east built in January cold before the question was asked, before the answer was given, before any of it was certain, built anyway, because certainty is not the prerequisite. Showing up is "step toward," his mother had written, even when you don't feel ready. Especially then, he had been afraid, he had stepped toward anyway. And here was what was on the other side of that. Here, exactly here. A fence line in October, his daughter examining the grass with complete and serious attention, his wife's shoulder warm against his arm. The sound of the creek and the cottonwoods and the particular quiet of a valley that had held him his whole life, and now held all of them. All of this, everything he had almost decided he was not allowed to want. He had been slow. He would not argue with that, but he had gotten there. And there was the whole world. Margaret looked up from the grass, held out a leaf, gold and perfect, still intact, offered it to him with full ceremony. "Yeah," he said. "That's a good one." She looked at it once more, turned, dropped it into the creek, watched it go, then moved on to the next thing. The way you do when you are 2 years old and the world is full of things worth examining, and there is no reason to hold on to any one of them past its moment. The leaf turned once in the current, and the creek carried it away, faithful and unhurried, the way it had always carried everything. And Granger Valley kept on being Granger Valley. The cottonwoods kept letting go. And Cody Whitmore stood at the fence line with his family in the October light, and understood, with the full weight of a man who knows what things cost and what they are worth, that he had gotten exactly where he was supposed to be, slower than he should have been. But here, right here, exactly here,